Morning, teacher and class. My name is Zambrano Joanna. Complex, simplicity, and Hirschsprung. This is definition. Hirschsprung's disease is highly hereditary, and yet it is adversely not mandalian. It transmits through families. However, it was one of the first complex diseases in which hereditary factors were discovered and variable large effect sizes were observed for both red coding variants. And watch the following video.
Hirschsprung disease is also known as congenital aganglionic megacolon. So Hirschsprung's is a disease that's present since birth, in which a ganglion, or a cluster of nerves, is missing, which ultimately leads to a blocked colon, causing it to enlarge. Alright, so the intestines move waste through the bowels via peristalsis, which is this series of coordinated wave-like muscle contractions that help move feces in one direction. And this is essentially automatic, happening without you even having to think about it. The type of muscle that causes these contractions is smooth muscle, as opposed to skeletal muscle or cardiac muscle. In the gut, there's a layer of smooth muscle just under the submucosa, which sits under the mucosa, which is the innermost layer of the gut nearest to the lumen. On the other side of the smooth muscle layer is the serosa. Now, if we look closer at the smooth muscle layer, it's actually composed of the circular muscle layer, arranged in circular rings which contract and constrict the gut behind the feces, which keeps it from moving backward, while the longitudinal muscle layer, arranged along the length of the gut, relaxes, which lengthens and therefore pulls things forward. Also, though, within these layers are two plexuses, or networks of nerves, which are made up of ganglia, of individual nerves, that help coordinate muscle contraction and relaxation. So first there's the myenteric plexus, also known as Auerbach's plexus, which when activated primarily causes smooth muscle relaxation. The myenteric plexus connects with the second plexus, the submucous plexus, or also known as Meissner's plexus, which is buried in the submucosa and is responsible for helping to control blood flow and epithelial cell absorption and secretion. These groups of nerves are clearly super important for normal bowel function. For people with Hirschsprung's disease, both these plexuses are gone. They're completely absent in some parts of the gut. Why is that? Well, during fetal development, there are these cells called neural crest cells, which are basically a group of fetal cells that migrate away and differentiate into a variety of different cell types. In this case, some of them become neuroblasts, and eventually the nerve fibers of the plexuses in the gut. Starting from the mouth, the neuroblasts start migrating toward the anus. Around week 8 of development, the neuroblasts get to the proximal colon of the gut, and then they pass through the distal colon, and around week 12 they finally reach the rectum. A disruption of this neuroblast journey in this time window means that the nerve fibers don't develop in the rectum and parts of the colon. Two specific genes that are thought to be important for migration and development of these nerve fibers are RET and EDNRB. So mutations in either of these could lead to an absence of these plexuses. Also, mutations in the RET gene have been linked to Down syndrome, which might help explain why Down syndrome is associated with Hirschsprung disease. Okay, so without these nerves, peristalsis in the gut is seriously impaired, because those muscles can't really relax anymore, and so they stay in their default contracted position, which essentially blocks the movement of feces. Babies that are born with Hirschsprung therefore fail to pass the meconium, their first stool, a process that usually happens within the first 2 days after birth. The rectum and the distal sigmoid colon, which are the areas closest to the anus, are usually affected. So feces builds up just before the obstruction, which causes serious constipation as well as colon dilation, or megacolon, which is at risk of rupture. For diagnosis, an abdominal X-ray with contrast dye might show an enormous megacolon full of stool that can't be easily pushed out. But a definitive diagnosis is by rectal suction biopsy of the narrowed area in the colon, where both the mucosa and the submucosa are extracted, as opposed to a normal biopsy where just the mucosa is taken. Remember that those plexuses are in the muscle layer or the submucosal layer, so a normal biopsy with just the mucosa wouldn't cut it. You need a sample of submucosa to see if the submucosal plexus is there or not, right? Treatment is typically surgical resection of the area that's lacking the nerve fibers, and then the healthy end is connected to the anus. Alright, so as a recap, Hirschsprung disease is a congenital condition where the nerve plexuses don't develop quite right in the colon, which leads to dysfunctional peristalsis and a plugged up colon. Thanks for watching. You can help support us by donating on Patreon or subscribing to our channel or telling your friends about us on social media.
Medical application. A key lecture of is study quite involved exam circuits and phenotyping of common variant of sample from Patian right Harvard. Hirschsprung. This is his way of the relatively large number of hernia in which they have from penetrative of rates during variant which variant to the disease and if acts left a region are events in which large number of variants are contributed. Pros and cons. Electrons can arise of the rings determined in Hirschsprung. This is prone complete. The current thinking as implication for people with the disorder and for the family member, as well as for those who are the disease. Problem applies in Ecuador. People with Hirschsprung disease have their air problems may also benefit from addition in prevention in her understanding of the genetics of the disease, particularly intent correlation of genotype with the latest disease phenotype has the hard to point to may prepare with Hirschsprung disease have presence gastrointestinal dispersion the aspect aggravated borrowing removal handweight cannot correctly products word will have this complication. Conclusion. United France as fundamental biologic perspective. This study reflects new harness and regulatory elements which relate interdevelopment of the entire nervous system are remarkably well structured process that fluids up complex instrument nervous system in the intestine also scanning as the second brain.